I felt like they just didn't care. The decision was made, the paperwork was done, they were moving on.
Did Clay Santimore mean to kill himself? Asheville police and a local medical examiner thought it was an accident, that Santimore didn't know the gun was loaded, but the office of the chief medical examiner in Raleigh labeled his death a suicide. His widow, Shannon, had to go to court to challenge the ruling. At stake was more than $1 million in life insurance.
And he told me that before I went any further, that Clay's death was a suicide and he was sticking with his decision. And I told him I told him that it didn't make sense to me that this would be called a suicide over an accident. And I started to describe some of the events leading up to the accident. And it became clear to me that he did not know a lot of the details of the case. When he told me, quite frankly, that none of that mattered. What mattered was his action. And I came back with, well, I think if I'm understanding the definition of suicide correctly, it's not just the action, it has to do with intent as well. You have to intend to end your life. And he responded that a grown man pointing a weapon at himself should understand what would happen if he pulled the trigger, and that that in itself was intent. And then I also asked to speak to a supervisor or a superior. I'd asked several times, and that led me to Deborah Radish, who I spoke to on the phone. And she was very abrupt and very curt with me and explained that medical examiners don't just go around changing death certificates on a whim. She said unless I could prove that someone else was holding the weapon when it went off, that Clay's death was a suicide and it would stand as a suicide. I told her I planned to appeal the decision, and she chuckled and said, "Good luck" to me, and I won't ever forget that. And then when I tried to explain them that there was more to it than meets the eye, I felt like they just didn't care. The decision was made, the paperwork was done, they were moving on. And the impact that would have on my family concerned me. My girls were just over 1 at the time, and my son was 6 going on 7, and I guess I kept thinking about Matthew the most. He and Clay had such a tight relationship, how I would explain to him just suicide seems like his dad chose to leave him, and that wasn't the case.
On December 20th, 2012, 11 months after Clay Santimore died, a judge ruled his death was an accident. The life insurance company paid Shannon Santimore $1.5 million.